Hello, and you're very welcome to the Women's Rugby Pod. Just myself, Johnnie Hammond today, but we've got a great chat coming up with Jo Yapp, the lady in charge at Worcester. A really, really frank chat with her about what's been going on in the club, the heartbreak of the last couple of months, and beginning to claw their way towards some light at the end of the tunnel, and a brilliant result at the weekend as well. And I even get to have a little chat as to what the response might be if England came calling. Anyway, let's get straight to Jo now. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome Jo Yapp onto the Women's Rugby Pod, the head honcho at Worcester Warriors. Jo, you're looking very well considering the bumpy road that it has been of late. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you. Yeah, it has been a bumpy road and I've probably got the bags under my eyes to show it. But yeah, no, we're getting there.
Not at all. Not at all. Jo, it would be remiss if we didn't have a tiny look back at the World Cup. You've been there, got a T-shirt, the plastic tray and all the rest of it. What did you make of the tournament as a whole? Let's go wide first.
Oh, it looked amazing, didn't it? And I think the final was a great showcase for the women's game, and to be a sellout, it just looked fantastic atmosphere. So I thought it was it was a real step up, and I thought they'd done a great job of it.
And then that final, England New Zealand. What did you make of that? A cracking game of rugby.
Yeah, it was a really good game, wasn't it? And New Zealand, wow, like the last 12 months, what amazing step up they've had, and to be in a position from last autumn's to be there in the final, playing the sort of rugby they were, it was pretty impressive, to be honest. And they kind of stuck to what they believed in, which was really interesting. They very much went out and wanted to express themselves. And England, I really felt for England. They went in with a lot of pressure on their shoulders. I felt there was a massive expectation on them, and I think you could see that a little bit with the girls. And obviously from our perspective, just absolutely heartbroken to see Lydia leave the field. Probably the least likely person you'd ever expect to get a red card, if I'm honest. So clearly that did impact, but England was still in it. They were still in it. They still had an opportunity to win the game. And, after all of that, and what a game it was for a neutral supporter. Obviously heartbreaking for England, but yeah, amazing for the game.
England lose it or New Zealand win it?
It's a real difficult one, isn't it? Like, I don't think it'd be fair to sort of answer that, because I think New Zealand definitely came out wanting to move the ball and wanting to win it, but England had an opportunity at the end, and didn't take that opportunity, and probably had opportunities, a couple of opportunities throughout. But it's a real tough one.
Yeah, bit of both, isn't it? So look, myself included, and us sort of women's rugby media types, just speculating sort of where England go next. And I would consider Simon a friend of mine. So it's a strange conversation to be having. But if we are looking forward and what have you, you're highly qualified, highly rated by anyone I've ever come across in the game. If England did come knocking and said we'd like you to head up the women's program, what would be your response? Told you there'd be a curveball.
Yeah, well, what a question. God, it's really hard to know what to respond right now, because I literally feel like I'm taking one day at a time with Worcester, because that's my absolute priority is keeping Worcester in the Prem, and I just can't even see past tomorrow and past Sunday and past next week at the moment. So right now, I don't know. Obviously, it would be a massive, like privilege, isn't it, to be spoken about in those circles, and that's really nice. But yeah, I genuinely don't know.
There is the commitment of the lady, looking at right in front of her. Let's get to Worcester. We mentioned just at the top there that it's been a bumpy road. For those people under a rock, where exactly are you right now? I mean, you're back playing last weekend, but behind the scenes, kind of where exactly do you stand? And obviously, end of the season is the end of a sort of another Premiership cycle, so you've got a sort of that sort of tender process process for next season as well going on?
Yeah, so where we are right now, we're currently owned by a company called Cube International, which is kind of backed by a number of sponsors, and some of those sponsors were kind of previous sponsors of the club, like Adam Hewitt and EBC, which is great that they've stepped in to support us. So everything in terms of rugby, we are back to complete normality in terms of what the program we're providing the girls. They're coming in getting exactly the same as what they were getting before. The administrators have been great in the sense that they've continued to let us use all the facilities and play our matches there whilst it's under administration. In the meantime, the Gym O'Toole Consortium has been the preferred bidder for them. So I've spoken to him, and they very much want the women to be part of, you know, their long-term vision of the club. So their plan is for us to go back in with them if the sale goes through. So, you know, this month is pretty critical. Hoping to get an answer, you know, this month from the administrators and DCMS and RFU in terms of accepting the consortium, and if that goes ahead, then we will go in with them. That's the plan. But obviously in the meantime, we've got the retender, like you said, and we've got our interview next Wednesday. So yeah, there's a lot going on. But in terms of actually on field and on training field, that side of things is very much as we were before August.
I mean, it just an extraordinary situation. There's plenty of things I'd like to pick up on that. You're entrenched in the club. The whole family have been for many years. I know you've been fully involved in it. It sounds like the communication, at least, which, you know, was quite a large problem at Worcester, leading into this, you know, this dark time for the club. It seems like the communications between yourselves and Premier 15s and the RFU and consortiums, whatever, are sort of really nice and transparent, and it's all sort of filtering through, and therefore you've got reasonably happy players, I'm guessing.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of people at the RFU have been really, really supportive of us through this, if I'm honest, in terms of trying to make sure that the women's program and we can continue. So that's been great. And people have really gone out of their way to make sure that we could carry on. Obviously, we got suspended the same time as the men. But the nature of us being, you know, not as expensive to run meant we had this opportunity of a buyer coming in specifically for us and buying our license, which has enabled us to carry on, which has been amazing.
So in terms of training, I mean, are you using six ways? The door's locked? Is that all padlocked up, or are you at the university ground? How's it working?
No, we're at six ways. We're very much at six ways. All our training has been at six ways. We had a period where we weren't at six ways. So when the club first went into administration and the administrators came in, everything was shut down for literally a couple of days. We then went and spoke to Worcester RFC, which were really supportive, and they let us do a couple of sessions across there. And then when we spoke to the administrators, they were fine for us to continue to use it and to play our games out of there, which has been great. But obviously, even though we had full use of the stadium, we all got made redundant. So, you know, no staff or players have been paid for like 8 weeks. We got made redundant on the 5th of October. And then it was like, well, what now? Because we had nothing finalized with anybody else at that point. But staff continued to come in. We continued to train with the players. Everything was at sort of our own risk as staff and their own risk as players. We didn't do any contact for a while, but they were fully aware. And we tried to be as honest and transparent with players throughout all of this, because that's the only way you could be, because at the end of the day, we were all in exactly the same situation. We were all in the same boat, so to speak, and that we'd all lost our jobs. None of us knew what was happening. So we were having like regular meetings with the players. If we weren't at club, we were doing it on Zoom. If not, we were sitting around on the comfy chairs at the club. And, you know, we sort of look back and smile about it now, but it's like, okay, right. You know, I remember sitting there the one day and we're going like, we just finished training. And I said, right, girls, it's all going to court tomorrow. And I think from tomorrow, we as staff are going to all be made redundant. And they were like, okay. so what happens now? And we're like, well, we'll see how it goes, but we're hoping I'll put out a schedule at the end of the week and we'll see what happens. And it was just it's just absolutely crazy when you look back at it, kind of from the 17th of August when the petition first went in to then 5th of August being made redundant and everything in between. It's been crazy.
That situation in terms of finances for you, the players, yourself, the staff, is that been rectified now? Was it a period of goodwill, or is it ongoing?
Yeah, so we are now contracted, so we're back getting paid, and then we could claim back for loss of earnings from the government for the loss of earnings we had when the club didn't pay us throughout September.
There's so much there, and I don't particularly want to drag you back down to it, because I think, as we spoke just before coming on, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you are sort of paddling towards it. But what on earth was it like going to bed with ifs, sleeping with buts, and waking up to maybes? Just how tough was that? Because you're responsible for everyone below you. You know, that umbrella effect, that pyramid effect. You're at the very, very top of that, and people are looking to you. Just how tough has it been, if you don't mind me asking?
No, I don't mind. I'm not going to lie, like, it's been really tough, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. And everyone was like, oh, you've done really well. But like underneath it all, honestly, like the amount of times I drove back from the club in tears quite often, because I was like, how can, we were in such a good place as a club. We had so much support, and the facilities were amazing, and we were really heading in the right direction, got an amazing group of players and staff. And you leave there and you just go, how can this could, every time you left the club, you kind of thought this could be the last time. And that's where we were at. Every game we played, we're like, this could be the last game. And then on the back of my mind, I was like, how on earth do I contact 15 players that are at the World Cup and tell them they haven't got a club to come home to? And that was really hard, because the players that were here were living it every day with us. So they were fully up to speed. But those players out there were, it was really hard. And I set up a WhatsApp group with them all in. And when there was like pivotal moments, because obviously everything got really sensationalized at one point, there was so much in the media. I was trying to I left them voice notes, because I thought voice notes would be better than a text, because I thought voice notes gives a tone to what I'm trying to say. So I was trying to just give them like the outline, and then I'd say to them, look, if you want more information, just let me know. But I'm really, really conscious that your 100% focus needs to be at the World Cup, and we will do everything we can to make sure things are okay. And then speaking to them now, they're obviously all coming back in, they're really like appreciative of that, like in terms of us keeping them in the loop, because I was like, do I say anything? But saying nothing just going to worry them even more. And their kind of thoughts were like, well, it was all right, we knew you'd sort it out. And I was like, really? Like, that's lovely that you think that, but actually there were moments when I don't think it was completely and utterly out of our control. So, it was lovely that they had that confidence, but at the same time, I was like, oh, I wish I'd had your confidence, because, it's not been as straightforward as that.
No, but what a lovely thing to hold on to, that your players had complete faith in you, and they knew you'd sort it out. Yeah, what confidence that those players have in you. So then, how lovely then to get back on the park and do what you guys do best, coaching rugby, playing rugby, first round of the Premier 15s. Just how lovely was it just to take the park?
Oh, it was just amazing. And I think through all of this, it kind of makes you realize just what you've got. And I think the players recognize that, and the staff recognize that, and how fortunate we are, because, you just take it for granted, don't you? You get caught up and stressed with the smallest of things sometimes from day to day. But when you're in a position where they can literally take everything away from you, you appreciate everything a lot more. You appreciate every training session, and you appreciate, getting on the bus and driving to Harlequins and being able to run out the stoop. Like, it just makes you kind of realize that. And I think that's why, through all of this, at the start with beating Exeter, and then like Quins in the cup at home and then away, it kind of does definitely add that extra to the players, because they're really united at the moment, because they've had to get through it, because through all of this, we had, like I say, the girls hadn't been paid. We had no medical insurance at one point. All of us were redundant. We haven't lost a player through this, which is just amazing. Like not one of them has turned around and walked away. And I think that says a lot about the group.
The group that you've created. Don't forget that fact. But yeah, look, the double over Quins now, as you say, those cup games. But to get back to league, and is that where that performance, that victory came from? Just backs against the wall. It's a busy lane, that, isn't it, for tractors behind you?
It's yeah, no, that's my dad going up and down. It's the same tractor. He's taking feed out. Apologies.
Is he? He is a busy chap, your dad. What's he farming?
Sheep.
Oh, it's an unusual way of carrying them around, but no, fair enough. Each to their own. Just go back to now we're distracted by tractors. That result, did it? Was it forged from sort of fairly obviously sort of backs against the wall? We're in this together. We got to fight, because that's it's an impressive way to start the season.
Yeah, it's definitely an element of that, and that takes you so far, doesn't it? But the girls have worked really hard as well, and they're a young group, and that's where ultimately a lot of the players we know in that first round were players that have come out of the cup, and we're fortunate to have a really good young group of players coming through, so that have been performing really well in the cup for us, and they've come through our centre of excellence. And the backline, when you look at it, someone like Tori Sellers, it's in the under-20s and things like that, really talented young 9, and you have Abby Kershaw in there that's just come out of 20s, and Jemima Moss. There's a lot of really young players that have come through, and they're just getting better and better as well. So I think it's a combination of, yes, pulling together and united, but equally these players are starting to step up and being able to deliver in senior rugby now.
All this going on and what have you, but we've said, and whether it be in commentary or podcasts, whatever, that you're building something quite special, and getting to a point where you're going to be properly challenging that top 4. Is this the year through it all? Is this a sort of seminal year that you break from that 5-6 team to 3-4 team?
I don't know if it's potentially a year too early. Our main focus this year, firstly, was to get on the field and play, but secondly was to make sure we continue to finish higher up the league than we are now. And unfortunately, we've come back, and a number of our World Cup players have picked up injuries, and I think every club is going to be massively impacted this year on the World Cup, and it's not going to be quite as straightforward as normal years. We've had no pre-season with these players, so how they integrate back in is going to be crucial. And unfortunately, we've had a few come back that aren't going to be fit, which is a real shame. So, but yeah, as long as we keep moving up the table and we keep bringing players through our pathway, then I think we're heading in the right direction. Just
2 more. Who's to look out for this season? If you don't know, University of Worcester Warriors, that's the official title now. That's right, isn't it? Who's to look out for in the squad?
Oh wow. I don't know. I think everybody's fully aware of her already, but this season Vicky Laughlin's come in and has been absolutely flying. And obviously we've had Paige and Lydia in there as international wingers, but Vicky has really, really stepped up. Karis Cox at 13. She is getting better and better, like her commitment to training and to everything, and plus trying to do her nursing and stuff. She's really quite incredible. And then you've got our youngsters like Tori Sellers and Jess Kershaw, 2 really up and coming 9s that are really exciting to watch in training. So yeah, there's quite a few there.
Yeah, there are indeed, and learning off a good Sales Sunday then, back at home,
1:00 6 ways.
Get down there, ladies and gents. Do your talking with your wallets and your feet, and go and support. Get down to 6 ways, 1:00. So yeah, 12:30, perhaps 12:00. Soak up the atmosphere. What are you making of Sales so far this season? Are you hoping to presumably double up, or will just continue the performance levels? We're going to see a couple more of the World Cup players in there.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because you kind of do your preview of the opposition, but then the team sheet comes out today, and every week's gonna be like this now, isn't it? They've brought back in, they've got a couple of their Americans back in the mix and different things, so it looks very different to the team sheet that they put out last week. So that's why it's going to make this league really interesting. But they're obviously really well coached by Tails, as we both know, and I'm sure that she's gonna be ready for a good fixture, and it's always a really competitive game with them. Yes, we'd love to make it back-to-back wins, and more importantly, we just want to put in, if we can get the win and we can get a strong performance in front of a home crowd at Six Ways after everything, and to show the supporters, and kind of thank them in that way for everything they've done. I think that's massive.
It's very unique. How much fun is it coaching against someone you've coached with, in Rachel Taylor, who's heading up Sale, while Katie Dale McLean's sort of swanning herself in a hot tub most of the time?
Yeah, it's always good fun, isn't it? Having coached with Tails twice in very different environments. The Barbars is such a different environment to coach in. The club comes with all sorts of different sort of pressures to what it does within a Barbarians camp. But it'd be good to see. I saw her at the launch as well. So it's nice.
Jo, absolute pleasure. I'll let you get on with your tendering. Let Dad get on with his sheet moving. It's been really, really lovely to speak to you, and I'm so glad that there is a smile there. And as I said to you personally, and social media, is there anything we can do, then do let us know. But real delighted to see you sort of getting back to your feet.
Lovely, thank you.
I'm Rachel Taylor, and you're listening to the Women's Rugby Pod.
As we were talking about with Jo there, Premier 15s started last weekend in England. The results were as follows. Sale Sharks beat DMP 31-12. Alicia Washington on debut with a score. Bristol notched up 62 unanswered points against Clare Monroy with an absolute stunner. Good crowd there as well. Gloucester Heartbreak looking like a proper top four side this year, aren't they? Away at last year's finest, Exeter won 17-25. Good afternoon's work from Emma Singh as well. While champion Saracens had one of their purple patches against Loughborough Lightning in the space of 4 minutes. Kelsey Clifford and May Campbell scored. That was Campbell's third, of course. May Campbell starting the season with a hat-trick. Worcester backed up their cup win over Harlequins with a stunning 5-point win at the Stoop. Vicky Laffling, as we were saying, with a couple for Jo Yapp's side. The second was absolutely sensational. And this weekend's fixtures in the Premier 15s. On Saturday, 12 o'clock, DMP Sharks host Exeter. Gloucester Heartbreak against Bristol, 12:30. That's your live stream game as well. That's going to be an absolute corker. And then on Sunday, Loughborough Lightning host Harlequins women, while Wasps travel to Saracens. That's 3:15. And then Worcester against Sale, 1 o'clock kickoff at Six Ways. If you've enjoyed the World Cup, then get yourself down to these games. There'll be fantastic rugby. The World Cup players are beginning to be drip-fed back into these sides. Regardless of that, this will be some cracking rugby. That Gloucester Heartbreak Bristol game will be absolutely sensational, won't it? In Ireland, the AIL League has continued while the World Cup has been going on. The final round of regular season games happened last weekend. Blackrock College finished in top spot with a clean sweep of 8 wins. Railway Union with 7. Old Belvedere and Eve Briggs UL Bows booked their semi-final berth by edging out Galwegians with a 13-7 win. Congrats to Bellencog, got their first win of the campaign as well. So Bows will travel to table toppers Blackrock on Saturday the 3rd of December, while reigning champions Railway Union host Old Belvedere. And in sevens, the GB core squad has been announced. Now, England, Scotland and Wales are all combining. Nick Walkie is the coach, husband of our friend here on the pod, Shona Powell-Hughes. Further core squad members to be announced in due course. But for now, it's Ellie Boatman, Abby Brown, Heather Cowell, Megan Jones, Alicia Maud, Isla Norman Bell, Celia Quince, Jade Shackles and Emma Uren. We'll bring you some of the international news next week on the pod. But just a couple of shout-outs just to finish up with. Shout-out to Harlequins Fee Fletcher, who's retired. What a performer over the last 5, 6, 7 years, probably the most consistent performer in the top level of English club rugby. What a servant she has been to her clubs. And shout outs also to the winners down in the swanky awards do for World Rugby in Monaco. Sevens Player of the Year, Charlotte Caslick. Breakthrough Player, Ruby Tui. Try of the Year for Abby Dow. And 15th Player of the Year, Ruhay Demont. The Team of the Year, all subjective of course. Hope Rogers from USA, Emily Tatosi from Canada, Sarah Byrne from England, as is Abby Ward in the second row with the Medusu Fall from France. Alex Matthews and Marley Packer, both Red Roses, in the back row with Canada's Sophie de Goody. Laure Sansus and Ruhay Demont, France and New Zealand at half-back. Teresa Fitzpatrick from New Zealand and Emily Scarrett, Red Rose, in the centres. And in back three of Blackfern's Ruby Tui and Portia Woodman, and England's Abby Dow. A huge congratulations to all those players selected. That's it for another week. Big thank you to Tom and to Vicky. And don't forget to subscribe, rate with the old 5 stars, let people know about the pod. Off the back of the World Cup, we want to increase the people getting interested in women's rugby as the amazing product that it is. And a big thank you, of course, to Jo Yapp for her time and her honesty. Not an easy conversation to have, but a really, really important one, and so pleased that that light at the end of the tunnel is becoming more evident for her and the rest of the team at Worcester. Enjoy the weekend's rugby. See you next week.